So although the first reading in the gospel today, there was a clear theme of forgiveness, all I could think about was relationship from that. And the reason for that is after 10 years working for the same company, I just changed jobs this week. I started a new job. And leaving my last job, it was important to me that I maintained a good perspective and good relationships and maintained those relationships. And then starting a new job, it's going to be all new relationships, right? New company, new owners, new expectations. And along with starting a new job comes lots of paperwork. That first day, hours and hours of signing agreements and things. One of them being a confidentiality agreement, and then an arbitration agreement, and things that I had to have a lawyer look at. Changing jobs these days, it's almost required that you get a lawyer to look at the documentation to make sure that you're not signing up for something that might hurt you down the road. And fortunately, all of it was kind of fair and easy to sign. But one of my business mentors long ago said to me, if you ever get to the contractual obligations that you've signed up with somebody, it means that your relationship with them has deteriorated so much that it's probably going to be unrecoverable. It was great business advice from him back then. And so that's why the relationships and kind of paying attention to what the company's expectations are important at the front end. And that's why the relationship thing was front and center for me most of the week, even with these readings. Now, the other thing, and many of you know that I'm an engineer, so I really like numbers and data. In fact, one of the phrases we use all the time is, in God we trust, everyone else must bring data. And so in the gospel today, you hear the numbers, right? Peter says to Jesus, how many times must I forgive? 7? And it might sound like kind of a limitation, but actually Peter's being very generous. The tradition was you only had to forgive people 3 times. The 4th time you didn't have to forgive them. And certainly 3, a symbol of perfection, the Trinity. 7 is also another symbol of perfection. So Peter ups the game, right? He goes to Jesus and says, he knows that the tradition says 3. He says, do I have to forgive 7 times? So he's already being generous and using a number that symbolized perfection. And Jesus comes back and ups the game even further. He says, no, not 7 times, 77 times. It's a fair question from Peter, right? He's trying to set, what are the expectations? I did that going into this job. I want to know what the expectations are going in. But at the same time, a lot of times in our faith, we think of it in a minimalistic approach. What do I need to do to get to heaven? I need to go to Sunday Mass. I need to go to confession twice a year. The church sets these rules for us. It's a guideline to get us on the path to relationship with our God. The best example we have in our lives is marriage. Marriage, unlike my job example, the job example being a contract, an exchange of goods and services, marriage is a covenant, an exchange of self. People marry each other. So the priest or the deacon that officiates at a marriage, he doesn't marry the couple marries themselves. He's a witness and facilitating the sacrament. So if you think about the minimalistic approach, it'd be like me saying to my wife before we got married, how many times a week after we get married do I have to tell you I love you? 7 times, once a day? Can you imagine that conversation and how that would have gone over? Right? So our faith is not about checking the box, and it seems like that's what Peter's trying to do. And Jesus is trying to get the relationship expanded. Don't think in minimalistic human terms. What is the least I have to do to get by? A similar example is our RCIA program. I've been fortunate that Father Mike has asked me to lead that here with people that tried to come into the church and want to become Catholic. And I've been involved in that program process in many different parishes, in many different formats. And it started for me over at St. Thomas in Derry, where somebody asked me to be a facilitator. So you would teach some aspect of the faith on any given week. And as time went on, the more involved I got in RCIA and actually led the process in another parish, that was my method of thinking. I needed to teach the people coming into the church the faith. It's certainly an aspect of RCIA, but all that does is make people smart about the Catholic faith. That doesn't make them truly Christian or Catholic. What the process is about is creating a relationship with our God and with Jesus Christ. That's what RCIA and becoming a Catholic is about. That's what our faith is about. It's that relationship with Jesus. And so all the information in the world doesn't form a relationship. That doesn't make a successful transformation to a person coming into our faith. And last week, somebody in our parish came here and approached us about becoming Catholic. And that's exactly what I explained to them. I can't make them have a relationship with Jesus. I can tell them who Jesus is. I can tell them what he's done for me. But the relationship is up to them and God. All I can be is a facilitator. And worse, the worst thing that I could be is I could separate the two of them. So God forbid that ever happens to me in that process. Now back to forgiveness, the theme of this week's readings. Certainly a big portion of our relationships. There's probably somebody in your life where forgiveness can be a challenge, whether it's you forgiving them or them forgiving you. In fact, when I looked this up on the web, how to forgive, I saw all kinds of sites on how to forgive. 12 tips on how to forgive. 11 ways to forgiveness, 6 ways to forgiveness, 10 ways to forgiveness. There were all kinds of different methods. Now remember, forgiveness isn't about the wrong that was done to us. That's real, that can hurt, that can continue. But Jesus asks us to forgive from the heart. He forgave us before we were born, as evidenced in our sanctuary by the cross, the method of our salvation. Father Mike mentioned it last week in his homily, when his father said to him, "There's nothing you've done or could do where I won't love you." God has said the same thing to us. That's why he challenges us to that level of forgiveness that Jesus talks about in today's gospel. So our challenge is not to keep score, because God doesn't keep score on us.